over if they have a public speaker.
Good, how are you?
They want these three videos played. Just click on them when they.
You're welcome.
It's not sold,
Thank
but
you
I
so
do
much.
take a look. I see that.
Wrist. Yeah.
Everything's with iPhone. None of it works on the PC, so I was like, the only way I know you can do them is if it's on like a little browser, just like my school account upload. Gotta make things difficult for myself, you know.
Absolutely, everyone.
That's how big it is. It's over a lot of
Of
rock.
course, Apple and Microsoft don't want each
And I
other.
actually
But that's,
And they're not, like, broad, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, this does create some.
They're just processing right now, just upload like a
Promoting pedestrian paths.
yeah, that's fine. And they're all pretty short.
Yeah, I think they're all within like.
And then there was one picture.
Yes.
Oh,
The picture is not right.
you see,
I have it.
do you have it on your phone? Yeah.
Which stop sign? Stop sign on the last. Yeah, they're still blowing through them. It's really scary. It's really scary. Me too.
Gonna take a screenshot.
I never know where I'm supposed to be. How are you doing, Glenn?
I'm in a chair. You're in a chair. I won because then it works. Stop the running. I know.
No, you're not Marielle Schultz.
How you been?
Good, because my daughter missed the weekend, and that was very nice.
Yeah.
Present.
Present.
June Hansberger.
Present.
Robert Prendergast.
Present.
Mary Lou Schultz. Glenn Johnson.
Present.
And Jim Wang.
Here, Jim Wong, by the way.
Wong. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody stand. Okay, ready, begin? Okay. All right, next on the agenda is oral communications, and I presume we have some people.
We sure do. We have 5 speakers this evening. When I call your name, please approach the podium. You'll have 3 minutes to address the commission, and time will begin after you state your name. First, I have Nancy Dugano.
I don't see a button. Ooh, but I hear myself. Nancy Degano, Lucadia. Good evening, commissioners and staff. First, I want to thank Abe, staff, oops, I'm yelling now, and the commission for prioritizing improvements to Vulcan Avenue between La Costa and Lucadia Boulevard. Your attention and hard work are greatly appreciated. That being said, there is still no suitable solution that's been implemented for a walking path. I know this can be improved. If parking on the west side were to be changed to parallel, there would be room between those cars and the tracks to put a safe pedestrian path. Even with the recent changes to Vulcan, there is no safe pedestrian path. This has been needed and requested for decades. Perhaps NCTD's fencing could be placed between the tracks and this new pedestrian path. Perhaps that's already the plan. Also, I question the center line being double now, being a double yellow. It seems to cause confusion about driving past a bike and maybe making the situation more hazardous. With the numerous upzone developments planned and approved for this corridor, we surely need your help and expertise to get all these forms of mobility moving safely through Vulcan, which is the new overflow outlet for traffic from Streetscape and 101. Impacts are soon to become profound. Thank you for your consideration and attention to this urgent matter.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ellen Burr, followed by Carol Hale.
Good evening, Commission. I just, first of all, wanted to say that the intersection of San Alejo and Manchester, someone has gone through there with a bushwhacker and cut down all sorts of things, so hopefully it will not create a mudslide now, but hopefully that was coordinated somewhere. But I would say that the problem there is not the lack of a sidewalk, it's the lack of any room with traffic going in both directions. You can't walk down the street. It's lack of sidewalks, not lack of a crossing, that is the true problem there. But hopefully we're getting that fixed. My bigger concern at that intersection is that from the curve and then around almost to the water plant, whatever it is, there's K-rail. And that K-rail has not always been there, but a number of years ago, I guess there was a slide from the, who knows whether it's a cliff or a bluff, it's changing. And my concern is that it's gonna go one day. I mean, and it should be being dealt with now, as opposed to having the backhoe come in and dig the stuff out that is most recently falling in and nudge the K-rail around a little bit. It's already on a curve and very narrow. So I don't know whose bailiwick that is, whether it's city planning or public works or traffic, but it definitely impacts, you know, movement and traffic. And if we don't have an access on Manchester, wow. And finally, citywide, there are many traffic things that are going on, some in the same area, where it's Sandag or it may be the railroad people or whomever, but we don't see, I'm assuming, I've been told not to do that, that it's all being coordinated, but it would be nice to have one spot where we could go and see, okay, this Sandag project that is on city land is progressing at this amount of time, and this is what it's costing us, this is what when it's going to be finished, this is what we're going to have to do, this is our input, this is whatever, and be able to, I don't know how we come to a complete citywide modality switch, mobility, traffic safety thing if everybody isn't on somehow the same page somewhere, knowing what's going on when and where. And I don't even know if we have a modality traffic mode shift guru as promised back in the fall or not, or if that fell through. But I would certainly think, I mean, Abe can't do everything, but streets, you can't have decisions being made about streets and not sidewalks and vice versa, I don't think. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Carol Heil, followed by Cynthia Shea Palmer.
Hello, my name's Carol Heil. I live in Leucadia, just off Vulcan. Thank you for all your hard work. I have a little bit of show and tell tonight, mostly show, less tell, of a video I took walking on Vulcan. Nancy spoke to the path on the east side of Vulcan and how it's really not that safe yet. I think the striping looks a lot better. I think the raised crosswalks are helping with slowing traffic. I'm not going to speak about the vehicular part of Vulcan, just more the getting some safe pedestrian walking mobility. And also with the fence going in, it's supposed to be going in the beginning of, or actually it's supposed to start this week, the rail fence. There's going to be a lot more pedestrian traffic to get to Leucadia and La Costa to get over to 101 and the beaches and the businesses and all of that. So, yeah, here we go. They're not very long. 3 quick videos. Here you go. Here's me walking. And I'm trying to give you like the width so you can see my feet. Okay, that's the first one. Here's the second one. This one a little more telling. And here I'm approaching a gal with a stroller and walking her dog. And here's the last one. I think it was, yeah, this is the first one. That was the first one. But as you can see, those cars are crossing the double yellow. And then right here, literally, there's 6 inches. This is supposed to be our walking path. And there's no barrier between us and the car. Just the last picture, there's one last picture. This is trash day. This is what you have to deal with on trash day. So this is Monday. And yeah, look where you have to walk. Anyway, I know there's some viable options on the table for moving it on the other side, changing the parking. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Cynthia Shea Palmer, followed by Sylvia Pizzoli.
Abe,
Hey, did you have a presentation I sent? Did you have that up? Did you get it?
I don't.
You don't have, okay, don't worry about it. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name's Cynthia Shea Palmer, and I was here last month. There was quite a discussion on the Clark Apartments. I hope you remember that discussion. Thank you for that very much. I wanted to bring up the presentation just to kind of level set so we knew what area we were talking about, because I know everyone's life is very, very busy. But there was a lot of good dialogue, a lot of good questions on the study. I think in the end there is, I want to say, general agreement that the traffic there is going to be quite high, and that our neighborhood will be significantly impacted, and that there was recognition that this is an advisory board. But what came out of it in the end, I thought was great, which was it was suggested that there be a collective letter that would be written. So I am coming up today saying I hope that didn't fall in the cracks, and that that is hopefully in the works. I've sent a letter, and I know everyone's very busy, but that's really why I'm here, not to rehash what I said before, but I just really hope that the outcome of that meeting is still in the works. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Can I?
Yeah.
It's in the works. Yes, it did not fall through the cracks. I will finish it, and with my associate up here. And I did go over and walk and drive the location, drive your site, and at different times of the day on different days. So I'm a little more informed.
Well, just so it's on the record. Thank you very much.
And our last speaker is Sylvia Pizzoli.
Thank you, everyone, all traffic commissioners. My name is Sylvia Pizzoli, and I came with a message from my beloved neighborhood, which I lovingly know as Tortilla Flats. It is 4 streets: Clark, La Mirada, Del Riego, and Del Rio, and along the south side is Puebla. And I came to tell you that our community is heartbroken because the Clark apartment project is still up for consideration to develop. It is landlocked, and the egress and ingress flow of traffic is through narrow rural streets. I have spoken to many of my neighbors, including my parents who still live there, and they all agree it will severely and negatively impact the quality of their life. I speak Spanish, so I was able to speak to a lot of our Spanish-speaking neighbors who feel that they feel that they're being bullied, that this is being shoved in their face because this isn't in their backyard or their side yard. It is in their front yard. And they feel that because they're not politically connected, because they don't speak the language, that they feel marginalized, and it doesn't feel equitable to them. Most of our neighbors that I spoke to who speak Spanish were not able to go to school and learn English, but their kids have, and I am the product of one of the parents there. And I am a successful teacher at Palaki Penseria Ranch, and I actually stand on the shoulders of other very competent, professional, amazing teachers that coached me as well, like Mary Lou Schultz. She was my supervisor. Yes, and so I come to you because I was able to read the transcripts from the last meeting that you had in March, and I believe it was Mr. Bandigan that kept saying something like the numbers there, the numbers of the traffic that's going to flow there just do not trigger a significant impact that would require any kind of override by the council, and we feel that that is just absolutely not correct. The traffic that we will get with 200 apartment units, mostly probably having 3 cars each for 2 and 3 bedroom apartments, is going to be significant, and the traffic flow through small narrow streets, there's no real way to build a sidewalk to have us be safe. So people that are young mothers that are walking in strollers, my father he's aging, he has pets. we're all going to feel very, very unsafe if this goes through. So I guess I'm here to implore you. I know there was something that was said, and I'm just going to run over just a little bit of time. But it was said that it is the duty of the commission to serve as a liaison between the public and the city council and to conduct analysis and provide recommendations to the council on matters related to safety and mobility of all modes of transportation. And I'm hoping that you can relay it to the people that will make that decision to take off that lot that is landlocked. It really wasn't, the city did not own it. There are 4 owners and I can say that begrudgingly signed papers that said, we will sell. But we know that in their hearts, they don't want to sell. We know that. And so I'm hoping that it gets to the right people and that you could be the liaison between us and the final decision that's made to take the Clark Apartments off, because it will ruin our quality of life. I know the mayor was quoted in February's Encinitas Advocate as saying that we live in paradise, and we do. But if this complex goes through, it's going to be a living nightmare for that community, my community. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sylvia. Just want to let everybody know who came to talk during oral communications, although Bob responded to one person, that we can't really have a big dialogue back and forth, but it definitely, I think it's safe for me to say that this situation is on our minds, and we'll hopefully follow through with some actions and at least let our feelings be known. So thank you. Okay, special presentations, proclamations, and announcements is next on the agenda. 5A is nomination and selection of vice chair for Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission. Before I get to that, I asked the IT department to kind of turn up the volume because I have bad hearing. Is it too loud for people?
It's a little loud.
It's so maybe step back a little?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. But I appreciate being able to hear people. Anyway, nomination and selection of vice chair for Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission. Do we have any nominations from the floor?
I do, and I have not talked to her, but I'd like to nominate June Hornsberger.
Oh, well, Mary Lou, you beat me to the punch. So, yes. So do we need to have a second and then a vote?
Yes.
Okay, I will second.
You need to ask her.
Yes. And we'll have a vote, and can we do a voice vote, or do we need to? Is that okay with everybody else to do a voice vote?
Yeah.
Okay, but before we do that, are there any other nominations? Okay, seeing that there are none, we can go vote. All in favor of June Hansberger being the vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Welcome, June Hansberger. All right. I'll be gone for the next 5 monthly meetings, so you'll have to take over. This is my first meeting as chair, as the real chair, and so let me know if I'm doing something wrong or if I'm forgetting something, and even people in the audience can do that too. So I don't want to miss anything. Okay, so Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission Subcommittee updates. Do we have any?
I don't have any new information on the mobility element. It's coming to the point where some things are going to happen according to the contracted schedule, and so it'll be soon.
Okay. Great. Okay, C, next is city traffic engineer updates on safety and mobility projects citywide, including but not limited to. And this is Abe. Thank you, Abe.
Thank you, Chair. Abe Bandigan, city traffic engineer. My regular monthly updates, the list of the updates for development projects citywide was added to the agenda From my conversation with the engineer in charge of our reviews, apparently there hasn't been much change. One minor change was that, which I think is good for Clark Avenue conversation, is that it was supposed to go to Planning Commission later this month, but I think it was postponed to next month. The reason it's good is that our letter was not ready today, so it can help us bless that letter next month and then send it to Planning Commission. I don't have a date. I hope it's not the first meeting of May, because it might be before a commission. I have to double check on that, but hopefully it's not. Vulcan Avenue Safety and Mobility Enhancements, the project was implemented, as you've seen in some photos. We did implement the project as was designed, and we knew all along that there are bottlenecks. As I'm sure you're all familiar with Vulcan, there are a lot of variations in cross-section. It doesn't follow a constant fixed cross-section. The width change, the vegetation on the east side, the parking on the west side, there's really no fixed number. Okay, it's 30 feet wide, we're gonna have 5 feet on this side, 4 foot on that side. There's a lot of variations. So there are a lot of bottlenecks along this stretch. But overall, there are a lot of good corridors. There are a lot of good segments in there. I would say more than 80–90% of the corridor. We do have a path now that, again, is not perfect. You're still walking with your back to traffic if you're walking northbound. But it is 3, 4, 5, 6 feet in some areas. It's not perfect. We knew it wasn't going to be the ultimate solution. This was just a interim, I guess, betterment for the time being until we have funding to improve Vulcan to its ultimate cross-section, fix the drainage, build a new road there, or form the trail on the west side, or build some sort of a path on the west side of the road. Those are going to be needing a lot of more evaluations and a lot of more funding. This, I want to clarify that this is not a project that is done instead of those projects. Those projects can still move forward. South Coast Highway 101 cycle track, the design is at 90%. We do anticipate going to council with our final package by the end of the month. Our tentative date is April 27th. Hopefully we can make it with the final design package that will go to Caltrans for funding approval. Caltrans would take around 2 to 3 months to authorize expenditure of the funds associated to the grant. They will give us a green light that, okay, this is good to go. You can go hire your contractor and start construction. If everything goes as planned, I do anticipate having the money available to spend around early summer. And at that point, we'll decide if we want to start construction in summer or we want to wait till fall. But things are moving forward. La Costa Avenue Walkway, the contract was signed a few days ago, as I'm aware. So that should be, the pre-construction meeting should be scheduled with the contractor. And I anticipate the construction to start very soon on that, within the next month.
And that, excuse me for interrupting, and that is from the intersection across, connecting to the bridge?
Correct. Southwest corner of the intersection all the way to the bridge.
Pardon me, could you also update about along the fence line? Is that part of this as well?
No, that's something, so northbound Vulcan on the west side, where that double curve exists, we met with the resident there and requested authorization to remove the fence, that there's a choke point there that really makes it very tight and narrow, to move that fence and open up the space there. Also, that dirt path on the west side of Vulcan, north of Andrew, our Public Works Department has promised to help us clean up that space a little bit and provide a more, I guess, comfortable path. It will still not be ADA, but it will be at least something that we can walk on more comfortably and don't have to walk on the roadway surface. But no, that is not done by the contractor. That piece is done by our own folks.
Thank you.
Did the resident agree?
Correct,
Oh,
he did
good.
agree.
And so at this point, the next step is for the city to remove the fence and then create the path?
Correct. I'm not sure, well, I guess we can call it a path, it's somewhere that people walk on, so. It's not gonna be official, I don't wanna call it a project, because I'm worried it might trigger like ADA. I don't wanna call it a project, we're just cleaning up
A
edge of the
walking
road.
area.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not really a project, it's not in the contract that TC Paving is doing. Grant updates, our street lighting project, we are going to Caltrans this month to request funding. The design is finalized, and we do have the bid package ready to go out. As soon as Caltrans green lights it, we can go and spend around $650,000 in state money that we can use for retrofitting our lights. Our 4 signal modifications, that's already at Caltrans. Those designs were reviewed by Traffic Commission, I think 3 months ago. That, as soon as it's funded, we'll start construction on those. Also, the second phase of cycle track obviously is there. We haven't gone to Caltrans yet, as I mentioned earlier. As soon as the design is finished and blessed by council, we'll submit it to Caltrans. Not much going on. We had a conversation on item 6. We had some conversations about Glen Arbor speed cushions, and we promised last month that we are updating those and fixing. They are being fixed, and there are new modules being installed, and the bollards being removed. The date that was given was later this month by Ian. So I think in 2 weeks we will fix all those.
And that's Glen Arbor, right?
Correct,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. It's fun watching cars avoid
Go around
those.
it, yeah. So we are adding more modules to, hopefully they will not go to the opposing lane to do the,
Right, right.
but we are adding more modules to prevent that maneuver. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Abe, can I have a clarification on one of those items? Item 2, the Vulcan Avenue. From the video that we just saw, that who was it brought in? Ms. Hill. I noticed that there were places where the white line is about 6 inches away from the landscaping, and I'm wondering, where's the city right-of-way? Is it being encroached on by private improvements there, or do we have, or can we widen it and take out that ice plant?
No, that is correct. That is an option. We do have the right-of-way there. Some of these bottlenecks, we most probably can go revisit and maybe mark them on a map or something and ask our Public Works Department to clean it up a little bit. But there are stretches that it would take a lot of work. We do have the right-of-way, but it would be a project of its own just to clean up the edge and open up space. It would be like, it won't be easy. But right-of-way is ours.
So we can take that up in the Commissioner Corner then?
I guess, yeah, if I understand correctly, you mean like creating a project?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be a task that's added to the log item. Obviously, we have to go back and check our fundings and see how much it will cost and availability of funds. But yeah, it can certainly be added to the.
Could I jump in here? I think that the first speaker, and I think that maybe Ms. Heil also asked, was maybe not so much trying to improve I mean, it would be great to make it wider, but there's so much land that I think has already been encroached on that we can't really reclaim it without, I don't know how much money it would cost to deal with the homeowners, but I think what they had suggested was to create a safe path, which I love the idea of, on the inside of where the current parking is. So I don't know if this is the time to speak about that now. I don't know if you could maybe show the commissioners, could you pull that up on a Google map, or should we wait to Commissioner's Corner? I'm asking for direction here.
Let's go ahead and wait till Commissioner
Okay.
Corner, because I think there will be a lot of discussion on that.
Perfect, thank you. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Oh, not at all. And don't let us forget. I won't. Okay, thank you, Abe. Yeah, I was going to have the same question that you had, Glenn, about the right-of-way and everything.
Yeah, I mean, we're overdue for a bunch of survey markers, and I think somebody could go along there with a backhoe or something and at least remove the encroachments and level the soil, even if it's not a sidewalk, it might be a dirt path.
Right. Well, let's talk about that during Commissioner Corner.
And I'm sorry, I did also just want to thank you. The speed tables are helping. I feel that it's slowing traffic. I have benefited from them. Even just coming to tonight's meeting, I benefited being able to get out right past Paulecki. I can't remember that street. I think it's Orpheus that goes down where there's a speed table, and it just slows traffic just enough to give you that little bump to get out. So I really do appreciate all of them. Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda is approval of minutes. Can I have a motion from the commission to approve the minutes if we've looked at them, and anybody see any changes needed?
I move to approve.
Okay, seconded by
Second.
everybody, okay. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope, okay, great. Next, we go to the action items, and action item 7A. This is great. This is 30 minutes into the meeting, and we're getting there. Action items, the Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission's format and agenda. I brought this forward, and I would like to propose that we kind of change our format, our agenda and meeting format a bit. Oftentimes we have a number of people from the public talking, and I think it is our number one priority is to allow people to talk and share their feelings, and I want to make sure there is time for that. I also want to hopefully shorten the meetings. We've had some meetings go 3 hours or close to 4 hours. And I'd like to target like no more than 2 hours maximum. But there are a lot of big issues that need to be discussed, and we need to be able to do that so that the public knows that we're listening to them, and so they have a better idea of where we're coming from also. And I also don't want to have to wait till the end of the meeting for Commissioner Corner and things like that, because half the time I'm saying, well, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to stay here any longer, and I don't want to restrict any commissioner's feeling that they can speak their mind. I don't want anyone to think that they're imposing and hurting people's private time and things. So I'm looking at ways of perhaps shortening the meetings, and one way that I thought was perhaps like Abe talks about the updates on safety and mobility projects. And I was discussing with Abe via email and everything, if it might be better to have a written report, kind of like, the land development project update and things like that, for things that are ongoing, so that he doesn't have to spend a lot of time explaining things to us, and maybe be able to shorten the time there. Now, Abe says it doesn't really take a lot of time to do that, which I appreciate, but also if it's in a written format, it might be easier for us to keep track of things that are going on. And so my thought would be to have, staff put together a written report on ongoing projects with what the project is, and maybe what the progress is, what's the estimated end time or completion time, and we can have a running thing, kind of like our follow-up log. So I think, that might be a good thing, and if there's anything new coming on, then of course Abe would have the ability to, share that and talk about it and describe it and discuss that with us. But my hope, again, is to give the public the opportunity to talk, give us the opportunity to talk, and compress the meeting somewhat. So when I first asked, I think I asked Amanda if we could change the agenda or something, then it was something that had to go to city clerk, And that's why we're discussing about this now. So what I would like to do is hear from any, like, in the packet was a sample agenda item, or a sample agenda, and hopefully people were able to see it. Just want to have a quick discussion about, do you like it? Do you object to it? Do you recommend any changes? And should we adopt it and move forward? So I have one change that I thought actually was to put, where is that? Put the action items above or right after oral communication. That would be the only change I would have. Anybody else have thoughts or ideas?
I strongly support shortening the meetings, because I think having long meetings really cuts the public out.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to stay 4 hours, and they shouldn't be asked to stay 4 hours. And I think your suggestions to do that are good. Are you also going to move the Commissioner Corner up to an earlier part on the agenda? You mentioned that.
It's open to debate and discussion.
I like this new plan. I was gonna say, I like Commissioner Corner being after the traffic engineer's report, because I feel like we have a lot of questions and things we want to follow up after that. So I like it being at the end of the meeting, so if things have come up that we want to follow up, we don't have to wait till the next meeting, you know, which I know sometimes it does drag on, but I think I don't want to miss out. Does that make sense? And then my other comment was also, I do like how Abe is currently presenting the ongoing projects to us. Would we still go through that list and have a quick discussion? Because I think it kind of triggers sometimes other questions and leads to follow-ups.
Yeah, my thinking was that on the ongoing projects, if there's not any big changes, that we can read it, but also if commissioners have a question about something that is ongoing, obviously we would have the opportunity to ask Abe specifically about that.
By having it written, it's still on the agenda, so the public is notified of what it is.
Right.
So that's not a problem in terms of Brown Act, and I think that would shorten things significantly.
Is that clarified? Okay.
My concern with Commissioner Corner is it's very important we never take action on those items, because they're not really agendized carefully as action items.
Excuse me, I thought the idea of Commissioner Corner was to put it on Commissioner's Corner, to discuss it, and then possibly agendize it to move it up, subject to, whatever other constraints that there are.
Definitely the purpose. We must be very careful. We always do that, very careful.
I'll comment on this. I like the changes you've proposed here, and I think it's within the purview of the chairman to institute these changes, but I'd like to thank you for allowing us to discuss them.
Well, thank you. I wanted to share it with everybody because I just didn't know how everyone felt about it. But so the question I have is it okay if we go with this format, if we put action items after oral communications?
Yes.
Is everybody in agreement with that? Okay. And like I also added the follow-up log as part of Abe's report, because obviously he reports on that. And I've noticed that there's a lot of sometimes there's crossover with the items. Like he talks about it during his report, and then repeats it also in the follow-up log. So maybe we can avoid that from happening also. So with that one change of action items going after oral communications, kind of move forward with this?
Yep.
All right, so do we need to have a motion for this too, or to change the format, or?
Typically, making the agenda is
To make sure we understand correctly, so we're swapping 6 and 7?
Yes.
Okay. It never hurts to have a motion.
Okay.
Okay, I move that we swap 6 and 7 and go for it.
Actually, could I make a comment on that?
Yes.
As far as I know, Items that take the most time really tend to be the oral communications and action items. And so if you move special presentations, which are often only a minute or two to after that, then people could be waiting, people who are receiving the presentations could be waiting hours. I think that the best way of shortening the meeting, which I entirely agree is a good idea, would be to try and expedite the action items. We can't cut down oral communications much, you know, but action items, as chair, perhaps you could expedite those. Traffic engineer's report, I think Abe is very concise in that. I don't know whether we can shorten that much, except your idea of written reports is a good idea. Perhaps we could just use that and say, if you have any questions, bring those up. But we don't spend a lot of time on his report. It's 10 or 15 minutes. But really, the one that takes time is action items, which can be hours. So rearranging the agenda for that probably wouldn't help a lot, is my opinion. I appreciate your ideas, though, and your efforts. It's a good goal.
Well, so you were mentioning, like, special presentations, you think people wait around for those?
Well, I don't think they take much time, is the point. And if people are receiving some Medal of Honor or something, you know, I don't think it's fair to make them wait for the action item, which could take 2 hours, for receiving that Medal of Honor, which will only take 30 seconds or a minute.
So you would just leave it as is? That's your thinking?
Correct. Even the special presentations could even come after the Pledge of Allegiance. for that
What?
matter.
He was suggesting that maybe you move after the Pledge of Allegiance, because number 6, really he's just saying from a time standpoint, it doesn't take very much.
Move that after Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, first of all, we don't have very many of those special presentations.
Right, exactly, yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm fine with doing that. So can we
I was just
modify the
gonna-
proposal?
I was just going to comment, I mean, as the chairman, you can change the agenda every week, you know,
Well,
to kind of tailor it, so.
I do not want to be a dictator, and it was not as easy as you think it was
Okay.
to change the agenda.
Really?
Yes. So,
Shake
so,
things
okay,
up.
so go ahead with a new format, however, move special presentations after Pledge of Allegiance, and then action items after oral communications. Is that correct?
Correct, and perhaps the city traffic engineer could be a written summary and be very concise then, and just turn into Q&A. If there are any questions, then we'll spend some time on it, but we're not going to save a lot of time there.
Right. But if everyone's in agreement, we'll go ahead and do that, and Amanda and Abe and I can make sure our next one is set up that way. So, Abe, is that okay with you?
Yes, I'm just trying to wrap my head. So 6 becomes 3.1, basically?
Yeah.
And 5 and 7 remain as is?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we can. Amanda, did city clerk mention that it needs approval, or no,
She said just run it by her. They're pretty standard for the most part, but.
Okay. Because I noticed on the recommended action, it says approve and recommend to city council, so we might not necessarily need to do that. Okay.
All right. We now have action item. The next one is, Abe, the analysis of speed tables, raised crosswalks at various locations citywide.
Yes, Chair, one of our longer-lasting log items, I guess, triggered by Traffic Commission, Mobility Commission, formerly known as Traffic Commission. At the time it was added to the log, it was Traffic Commission. 6 locations were recommended by the commission to be evaluated by staff for potential ped improvements, including speed table / raised crosswalks, and obviously in areas that is not signalized, adding some sort of a intersection control, rectangular flashing beacon or something. we collected a video recording at these locations, mostly for 5, 6, 7 days, for most of them, I think 6 days, some of them 5 days, some of them 7 days, to find out what kind of pedestrian activity we were looking at these different locations. Locations 2 on La Costa and Sheridan, La Costa at Vulcan, 4 on South Coast Highway 101, south of the city, Solana Beach city limit, Kai's restaurant traffic signal, pet crossing, Las Olas, pet signal, pedestrian crossing, and South Cardiff Beach entrance. That one is also signalized. So one by one, I'll go over those. This is the Sheridan intersection. The dates, I didn't add the month because they were spread around. They were mostly around August, September, October of last year. So COVID was, obviously not completely done, but I guess it's fair to say the number is acceptable. It's not like nobody was leaving their houses at that time. The numbers that you can see, these are the number of people that crossed one of the legs, either on the east or on the west of the intersection. Where this photo is looking west. There is an opportunity for traffic calming, obviously. The number of pedestrians crossing here is not very high. As you know, most of the residents who want to go toward 101 or Ponto or toward the beach in general would use the south side of La Costa. Usually people who walk on the north side are the residents of that side, which are really not that many compared to the south neighborhood. So that's the reason why the crossing does not have a very, very big number. We do see some numbers when we get to 101. We didn't analyze that because that's already a signalized intersection with marked crossings. But my understanding is a lot of people walk toward the bridge using the path that we are improving right now, cross 101, and then go toward north if they want to. They don't really cross La Costa. The numbers there, so this wasn't really a location that we would recommend. We are evaluating other options for this intersection. We did have a preliminary analysis for a potential roundabout here. Obviously, a huge cost associated with that. We did evaluate a stop sign. At one point, it wasn't warranted. So we are looking into this intersection to see what other opportunities we have. There's also another study for La Costa Corridor in general that is that evaluated different cross sections of La Costa, addition of a two-way left turn lane, addition of sidewalks, black lanes and buffers. So there's a lot going on here, but just based on the number of crossings that we see here, it does not really justify a race crossing.
May I comment on that? Part of the reason that there is nobody crossing there is because it's taking your life in your hands to do so. The traffic has just come off the freeway, and while the speed limit is 35, people are going between 50 and 60 right through there.
I have a quick question. Abe, looking at these numbers, what is a threshold that starts to, from a context standpoint, that you start to?
There's really no clear threshold to put a speed table. For mid-block crossing, there are numbers in MUTCD that says if you have like 10 or more per hour, you can consider a mid-block crossing, but this is nowhere close to that too, yeah. But those are more for like when you want to consider a mid-block crossing somewhere. I guess this can be considered a mid-block, but it's an intersection. So I guess the difference is legally crossing here is not illegal. Like you are allowed to cross. It wouldn't be considered jaywalking. Whereas a mid-block, you can be ticketed for jaywalking if you. So that's, but I mean, that's just, the way the language of the law is.
And so then my next question is part of this analysis. Do you see a benefit if you were to paint a crosswalk in terms of a traffic calming and putting a sign that says crosswalk ahead? going in both directions. Do you see that being a beneficial, low-cost alternative?
To be honest, no. Multiple reasons. One is we don't have a receiving end on the north side of La Costa. As you can see, there's really nothing going on there. So we would be creating a crosswalk to nowhere, basically sending people into the bike lane. And the second is usually these kind of markings, when not accompanied by additional features like RFB or a raised, I guess, base or additional signage, they can create that false sense of security that people think, oh, there's a new crosswalk here, now I'm safe. While in reality, nothing really has changed much other than a marking on the ground. A lot of drivers, might not even notice if there's no additional traffic control. If you add an RFB, if you add, pavement legends in advance of that, shark teeth, you add a lot of stuff, it becomes more, I guess, noticeable, but just pavement on the ground. And again, without limited resources, I mean, something like that, I can't see it would need ADA compliant on the north side, a new ramp on the south side, RFPs, it would easily be like a $40,000 project, if not more, so. Going to
Sorry, Abe, I apologize, but I have a couple comments, so I'm going to just jump in here. As was said by Commissioner Schultz, people do cross here, but it is taking your life into your own hands. And people do use both sides of the road. In fact, I will run down one side, so I'm running into traffic. I don't ever want to run with my back to traffic. So I will run down that north side, or, coming towards us in this picture, and then I dart across to cross here. But we do have a lot of people in our neighborhood that are riding electric bikes, and they are riding them to Ponto, this is one of the great access points to get there, so you're not taking your life into your own hands on Vulcan. And this does have a nice bike lane already, but people cannot get across this intersection. Sometimes the traffic is backed all the way to the freeway, and it's just, you can't get across. So my point is, I think that this does justify having a raised speed table here and putting it in, because once you build it, people will use it, especially with our Vulcan our whole rail corridor getting fenced in. This is going to be a real great access point for people to come out Sheridan and then take this nice bike lane that we have all the way to Ponto. So we can't just think of it as PEDs. And then the other thing I do want to say is both directions here, if you go towards the freeway, what direction is that? If you go east and west on this road, there is a shop that's a farm stand that's right on one direction that's open, and going the other direction is La Costa Anderson's nursery. And I actually do walk and ride my bike to that nursery quite often to get stuff and then go back home. So people use this, but it's more dangerous, and it's only going to get more dangerous. We have 40 houses being built right up the road from this. We have a new hotel that's going in on La Costa as well. So all of that development in conjunction with those apartment buildings that are going to be right down the way, I just feel like I feel like we need to not let this opportunity slip by. If we are, I realize this isn't a funded project or anything, but saying that this isn't needed, I have to disagree, and I think it's really important that we consider it here. Thank you. And I appreciate you doing the study and looking into it. Thank you, Abe.
Sure.
Abe, I have one question. You mentioned that it's part of a major study that is underway. What study is that?
So we hired a consultant to evaluate various intersection controls at Vulcan and La Costa and at Sheridan and La Costa, and how these different intersection controls, including stop signs, signals, roundabouts, can improve the situation on La Costa, and possibility of changing the cross-section of La Costa, one lane in each direction, or one lane in each direction with a two-way left turn lane. How these different scenarios work together. The study was finished. there were some recommendation out of that. Obviously, none of them are funded. What we did get into was allowing the mobility element consultant, because they're working on this corridor at the same time, to get this study, to get the results, and they're supposed to come up with the ultimate fate of La Costa to give us, okay, this is what you're supposed to do with it. This is how you're supposed to build. I guess that's another opportunity to say we can wait for that cross-section when it's defined. I do foresee having a walkway on the north side, a concrete sidewalk with that ultimate cross-section, because I do know that's the willing of the neighborhood. Everybody that I've spoken to, they do want walkways on both sides. So when we do have a walkway on the north side, maybe it has more merit, I guess, to have a more official crossing. The reason that I said it's less utilized is that I see the number of residents residing on the south side be a lot more on the north side, like the number of houses that we have on the south, and mostly anybody who wants to walk toward 101 and the beach, they would have to use La Costa, like the whole Andrew neighborhood, like the whole neighborhood down there, they have to use La Costa. So if they come up here to go west toward the ocean, I think they would use the south side. I don't see why somebody would want to go to the ocean and cross here and not go to Vulcan, that's a stop sign, or go all the way to 101 and then go north. Now, obviously, it does happen. I'm not saying it's impossible. We do have the numbers. But to say we have like, in traffic, we call it latent demand, the demand that exists but doesn't happen, or hidden demand. I don't see, it does exist, for sure. There are people that are not crossing because of their safety concerns, but I don't see it being very huge, to be honest. But again, I can be wrong.
So that study is done?
Correct, yes.
Oh, do we get to see it?
Yeah, I can, I mean, it's public record. I can bring it.
Let's bring it to the agenda and we can read it and we can post it.
Yeah.
Talk about transparency.
Abe, my last question would be, if you don't think it's worthy of pedestrians, which I think maybe you're right, maybe more people would stay on the south side. I'm having a hard time with directions, pardon me. I do think, and you said it in here, I really do think it would be quite a benefit for traffic calming in this section, because the speeds get up pretty fast here, and like I've already seen with the ones you put in on Vulcan, it is already having quite a calming effect. And, you know, that is a benefit to just slow it down for the people that are there. And also, since we still don't have a stop sign here, just getting people in and out of this neighborhood, you know, it is hard to turn left and head to the beach if you're in a car or on a bike. So I think that, you know, it will slow traffic and allow a lot more mobility and flow, because this intersection is really dangerous, and we are coming upon summer and it just backs up. And anyway.
Yes, I did mention, as you probably can see in the report, I was kind of anticipating, maybe it's my own thinking. I'm thinking like in the future, if we have a two-way left turn lane on La Costa, that can help a lot with all these developments, having access to La Costa, not delaying La Costa as much for these left turns. This two-way left turn lane can become a left turn pocket at this location, so that the westbound through movement can continue going, and at the center of the road we can have a queue of people waiting to get gaps from eastbound vehicle. Maybe at that point it would be a good idea to slow down the eastbound traffic to give these guys a better gap. I did say that if we at some point want to do it, a race crossing on the west side of the intersection would be more beneficial than east, to help with these westbound left turns. The traffic calming topic came up. We do have the, I guess, luxury of having our fire marshal here tonight. Per our code, our fire department, and it's not just an Encinitas code, it's a state code, our fire department has the authority to review and approve our traffic calming devices. Obviously, our most, if not the most, one of the most effective measures that we have are our speed tables and our speed cushions. Because of the nature of this report, our fire marshal accepted to attend tonight to answer questions, or if there are any concerns on their side about potentially having traffic calming measures at these locations. Feel free wants to jump in if you want to talk about any of these locations.
Sure, thank you, Abe. My name's Holland Schmidt. I'm the fire marshal for Encinitas. I guess I could start with just a general overall. I don't know if you guys really know what he just explained. So in the code section, there's a section there that any speed calming devices have to be run through fire. To me, it seems for obvious reasons, but I can explain those to you, because it impacts our mission, right? So we are not great advocates of impediments to our mission, which is a quick response time. So in the past, some of these devices have been placed without the consultation of fire. We're trying to work that out and we have, for the most part, with traffic over the last few years to make sure they're getting our input in this. And some have gone through and some have not. And we look at a number of different things when we evaluate these speed, well, there's many different, I'll just call it traffic calming devices. And we've worked with traffic in redesigning some of them so it doesn't impact our responses as much. And the speed cushions is one of that. We kind of redesign those to help meet our needs. So, emergency response, obviously that's our mission, get there quickly. Brain cells begin dying 3 to 6 minutes. There are areas in our city that we are challenged to reach in that time frame. So any type of impediment, vertical deflections typically, like speed tables, impacts that. That's something that we need to weigh in terms of what the city wants to do, and it starts with us, I guess, in the planning commission here, or the traffic commission, excuse me, in evaluating those things. It's a risk-reward type evaluation we need to look at. So I will say that when we look at these, and Abe presented all of these to me, and I take these and we look at, and I speak with the operations side of the department, and we look at areas that may be challenged or things that will slow us to these areas. We look at, for streets, we look at grade, we look at width, we look at the traffic patterns that we utilize to get to calls. So, high frequency routes that we use from our fire stations to certain areas of the neighborhoods of the city. We look at the parking situation on streets. We look at traffic calming devices in the neighborhood on parallel streets, because that starts impacting. We start getting a cumulative effect of, if we're slowing all traffic, traffic in the city, we are suffering anywhere from 3 to 15 seconds per device. So we start placing these devices throughout the city, we really start impacting our response times for emergencies, medical emergencies, fires, what have you, any type of emergency. So we weigh a lot of different things when we look at these traffic calming devices. So I just kind of wanted to give you a background of what we're looking at and things that you guys may want to consider when you start looking at the mobility plan and the traffic calming that we're doing in the city. We don't respond on bicycles or by foot. Our method is by vehicle. So keep in mind that, that's important. That's our mission, is to get there quickly, and those impediments really affect the service that we provide to the community when it comes to emergency services.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So next location is La Costa at Vulcan. As you can see, the numbers are surprisingly low. I was surprised, like several zeros. That, I guess, is more proof that if somebody wants to go toward the ocean, at least right now, they would use the south side. That makes me feel good about the walkway project that we're doing. on the south side of La Costa, connecting the Vulcan intersection to the bridge. It seems like it is, because we do know people walk toward 101 on Ocean. The fact that they're not crossing here kind of shows that they're continuing walking on the south side. So that walkway is going to be a very beneficial project. Not much on this one, really. Obviously, if we do at some point make it a signalized intersection, because it was warranted, as you recall, and that's how council voted for this location to be an always stop control, because the signal was warranted. If at some point we get to fund this project and signalize it, obviously at that point we will have marked crossings, and they wouldn't really need to be raised at that point because there will be a traffic signal there.
Excuse me, I have a question there. It's interesting that you're talking about putting a signal, which is very expensive, and yet the numbers here don't seem to warrant the same concern historically that they had to put a signal in. Can you explain maybe the difference between these statistics and what was done in the past to warrant a signal?
So there are 9 different warrants in MUTCD that talk about how a intersection can receive a traffic signal. There are different. One, a few that I can remember is the 1 hour peak traffic. There are certain charts and diagrams that shows the number of vehicles that approach the intersection from different legs. And if you are below that chart, you're not warranted. If you're above that, there's a 2 hour chart, there's a 4 hour chart, there's an 8 hour chart, and there is the school traffic chart. There is I think the number of collisions chart. There are a bunch of different warrants that you go and check based on the activity that you have at the intersection. About a year and a half ago, I think, we presented this study. I don't think you were at the commission at that point, but I can send you the report. The consultant analyzed it, and it did meet, I think, 2 out of the 9 warrants. So we took it to the council at that point, requesting funding for, I don't want to be wrong, we took it to council with the option. There is an option in MUTCD that says if a location has a warranted traffic signal, you are allowed to justify an always stop control. So that was how council was able to approve a stop control at this intersection.
It just seems, I guess, we look at the other numbers, numbers seem light, that's all.
Those are just people, so that's not cars. So you're just looking at people trying to walk across. There's a ton of cars.
There are a ton of cars. Cars.
Oh yeah, this is a number of pedestrians. I'm sorry, maybe I wasn't clear.
No, I understand, but part of this is to get people across the street, across Vulcan.
Oh, definitely, but that intersection is so dangerous, nobody walks there.
This is only crossing La Costa.
No, I understand.
This is not crossing Vulcan.
From south to,
Nobody in their right mind walks across La Costa Avenue. I walk there every day.
Well, it was interesting to me, to be honest, because that location is stop controlled.
Right.
I was thinking if I was at Sheridan and I was to cross, I would say, hey, why not walk to Vulcan, unless the path between Sheridan and Vulcan is not super clean. So maybe you just decide to go to the bikeway on the north side and just walk in the bikeway. But I would prefer crossing at Vulcan because of the stop sign. But the problem is there's no receiving on the north side. So if you cross at Vulcan to the north side of La Costa, there's really no walkway, at least on the south side. Before the bridge, there is something that you can walk on.
Oh, the walkway on the south side will be wonderful.
Yeah, it will be very, very effective. The third location, the Coast Highway 101 at City Border at Solana Beach. So this is one day our camera was malfunctioning, so we couldn't have data at that Thursday. But the other days, you can see the number is pretty big. The number of people that cross, mostly from Harbor Park to the stairs, and there is like a non-compliant stairs over there, the non-ADA that people get to by the welcome to. I think it's welcome to Solana Beach sign, or is it welcome to Encinitas? Welcome to Solana Beach on the northbound side. So the number is there. We are in conversation with the City of Solana Beach engineers. Try to come up. We do have a concept. I'm not sure if I added. Yeah, it's a concept. We do have something that we are talking together. Because of the fact that the nearest signal on each side is kind of far. On their side, it's, I think, Ocean Drive, which is like 2 blocks away. On our side, the nearest signal is Las Olas, which is even further than 2 blocks. We have concerns that at this location, vehicles might have developed to speed, so we don't want to do an uncontrolled location, even an RFB. We did talk about RFB there. I didn't like it, so I didn't recommend it to Solana Beach. They had conversations with their council. So we are thinking about a signal here, if we do such a thing. And if we do it, obviously, the first issue is the funding needed. Something like this would easily cost about $300,000 with the median island and all the ADA and all the additional striping that is required. So this is an idea. We are working with Solana Beach. There's no agreement on who pays what. One idea is their residents, so I'm sure you agree that these numbers, probably 90% of them are Solana Beach residents. So is this something that we should prioritize and City Council should fund ASAP, or we have to kind of talk to Solana Beach to see maybe this is something that we can design and build, but they can fund? We are doing some, I guess, due diligence. We haven't got to negotiations yet, but both sides like this. Don't get me wrong. We think it's a good thing, because you can see the number, and every time you spend 30 minutes there, you see people crossing there. So it's a good project, but I would cross the bridge of raising it or not raising it later when we actually decide to build an intersection control here. We can talk about that later. Because even with raising it right now, I don't feel comfortable allowing crossing here with no signal.
Hey, when you say signal, are you talking about the regular red light, green light
Correct.
type of thing, not just a pedestrian walk signal?
No, like Kai's, like Swami's, Las Olas.
Stopping the car.
Yes. So in traffic world, there are two, like there is active intersection control and passive. RFPs are usually considered passive. No matter how much striping you put on the ground or non-enforceable signs like RFPs, RFP itself, you cannot write a ticket for somebody. So by law, if I see that flashing, if I don't see a pedestrian in the crosswalk, so there's no pedestrian right-of-way, I can't just pass. There's no active control. But a traffic signal is active control. It can stop a vehicle even though nobody's present. So that's, I guess, the major advantage here. I mean, again, if this was closer to Las Olas, if this was closer to a, I guess, urban area where people expected to see people, this, on both sides, there's really not much activity going on. So drivers can easily be, I guess, mistaken. Okay, this is like between two cities. There's nothing going on here, and all of a sudden, there's a pedestrian that pushed a button and is trying to cross it. I guess this is like 60 feet wide. It's pretty wide in this area.
Yeah, you had mentioned that there was a concern about the amount of speed that vehicles might be going up to as they're leaving Solana Beach.
Because the signals are far, yeah.
Now, Solana Beach just recently lowered their speed limit on this section to 35. But I think making the assumption that most of the people are Solana Beach residents might not be, I wouldn't be too quick to say that, because this area, the end of the Harbaugh Trails, people from Encinitas and Cardiff can walk all the way across the lagoon on these trails and get to this point at the end of Harbaugh Trails. And if they want to go to the beach, they have to run across 4 lanes of traffic. So, and I think there are a lot of people from Encinitas, Cardiff, or whatever, who are walking in the new lagoon trails. So I don't think we should try to classify the people as either Solana Beach residents or Encinitas residents. It doesn't really matter where they come from or where they live. This is a dangerous section that really needs attention. And along with this, obviously there needs to be more speed enforcement. Maybe we just put up those little signs that show people running across the road. I don't know, like they have up on the freeway. But this is Like, if I were king of the forest, this would be the #1 project for the city. It connects all the good stuff with the new the lagoon upgrades and everything. And to put up 4 lanes of high-speed traffic in front of people is just asking for trouble. So like I said, if it was my option, I would say, let's move ahead forward with this. Now, also, we could put in a crosswalk with a signalized intersection without Solana Beach. Isn't that correct? Like, our right-of-way allows that?
Yeah, this is all in the city of Encinitas right away.
Right, okay. So, because I know trying to coordinate 2 municipalities and everything just delays things.
But his idea of Solana Beach paying for 95% and our paying for 5% is a really good idea.
50/50 is good enough for me.
Yeah, I'd like to substantiate what Commissioner Von Neumann just said, because I think that you'd get a lot more pedestrian traffic if you had such an easy crossing, because right now there's no easy way to park and access Harbour Trails. I can envision that if you had this crosswalk and easy crossing, then people could park in the parking lot for the beach, cross the road, and access the trails that way, which they can't do now easily. So I think these pedestrian numbers would go up if you had easy access.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, I said, setting aside who pays for what percentage, I do agree that this is a good project. It's we have this big list of unfunded projects list, I guess, that this is there. How it gets prioritized, how it finds its funding is a different story, but this is a good project. I guess this specific report is not to create a project. It was about raising crossings. My idea is, because of the fact that I want to see a traffic signal here before allowing any crossing, we would leave that idea of raising it to a future date where we have the funding for a project. At that point, we can decide if raising it together with that signal is a good idea or not. The next location is Kai's Restaurant Crossing, that traffic signal that we have there. The number is pretty high, as you can see, more than 100, with the exception of Wednesday, almost every day, over 100, 110, 120, which is, we only surveyed 12 hours from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. One reason that this location and also the one by the Cardiff Beach, I felt like they are not as good of a location. Obviously, we can't raise everything. Well, not impossible physically, but budget and emergency response and everything. This location and Cardiff, I felt like they have less benefit if we want to consider, because the numbers are all kind of similar, above 100. I think Las Olas was way above this. Yeah, that one's more like 200-300. Cardiff State Beach was a little smaller, around 30-40. I felt like Las Olas, between these three, they are all signalized, obviously, as you know. They all have existing infrastructure. They have marked crossing, push buttons. So ADA, well, not 100% compliant, but there are some ADA facilities. The reason that I did like Las Olas more compared to the other two was these other two are close to other traffic signals. So when we have busy pedestrian periods, like periods that there are a lot of pedestrians crossing, there are pedestrians crossing at the other signals too. So those crossings would slow down traffic, because if you're coming from northbound or southbound, chances are at this location, you might have hit a red at Las Olas, or you might have hit a red at Cardiff Beach signal. Because of that, or if you're at Cardiff Beach, chances are you might have hit a red at Kai's, or you might have hit a red at Chesterfield. Because of the closeness of these crossings to the adjacent signal, and lower number of pedestrians crossing compared to the Las Olas, between these three, I thought Las Olas would be a better location, because especially coming from out of town, that's our first signal. When that thing is sitting on green, we are giving the opportunity to vehicles to enter our city with higher, well, I guess they've already entered the city, but enter the more urban area of the city at a higher speed. So between these three locations, Las Olas has the highest number and is furthest from the signal at Solana Beach, which is, I don't know, probably about half a mile away or something. So this was the only location that I felt was more beneficial. Still, compared to other locations that we consider like the ones on 101 that we have right now, or the ones on Vulcan that we recently did, because of the fact that these are signalized intersections, they are very, very safe. We haven't had a single injury or fatality at any of these locations because of these signals. The collision history doesn't support that. So yes, we will benefit from traffic calming effects when the signal is on green. When it's on red, obviously they have to come to a completed stop, which they do when pedestrians cross. So these hundreds of pedestrians are crossing here with absolute safety. Nothing has happened. This is 6 days. You're looking at about 3,000, 2,000, 3,000 pedestrians crossing. Multiply that by 52 weeks. So every year, we have about, 150,000 people crossing. If the number is average, nothing in the history of any pedestrian being injured here. But again, as I said in the report, we can benefit from traffic calming effects of a raised crossing here when the signal is on green. How beneficial that is and how much we're willing to, fund this type of project, because that thing would cost about 30 to 50,000, considering the distance that it has and all the improvements needed at both ends. On the west side, we have the cycle track that needs a lot of improvement if we raise it. And also with our conversation with fire department, our fire marshal mentioned that fire department is not in support of having these traffic calming devices on 101. But yeah, I think I covered all the 6 locations. So yeah, let's open it up to discussion.
Thank you, Abe, for your studies. They're very comprehensive. I was wondering, as far as controlling speed, have there been speed studies done for average traffic speed here? Since, as you said, that half mile on the downhill from Solana Beach gives cars a green light to go fast, and I can't believe they're going to go as slow as 35 miles an hour.
So when we did the speed survey after the cycle track was implemented, one of the locations that we surveyed was, I think, a couple of hundred feet south of Las Olas. So that was one of the survey locations. Our 85th came back at 37, I think, that we were able to make it 30. It's 30 now, right? Or is it 35? So it came 42. I remember we were just 7 over, so it came back at 42, and then we were able to make it 35.
Do you know whether people actually obey the speed limit?
That's the thing. Like when you have a 85th of 42, that means you have like 15% that are going 42. So right. That's the other side of the survey.
But that was before you lowered the speed limit to 35, correct?
Correct. So, oh, you mean after? No, I don't think we've done a survey after to see how much compliance you were getting with the.
Yeah, because bugs do rise in Sherrills, but you know how the speed of cars really affects their liability, their danger.
Yeah, we can certainly do a survey and find out what we're looking at over there. I do know that we have enforcement efforts there. I see sheriff's SUVs every now and then they're trying. But
yeah, I just think that the speed study would either bolster or indicate that a speed table may not be necessary. It'd be evidence either way.
Yeah, we would have to do, I guess, a special survey to do it, because our survey would be affected by the color of the signal. So we would have to probably survey only when after a few seconds into the green until the yellow comes up, because otherwise the data would be a mixture of, because when they're approaching red, it wouldn't really matter.
Right, but how about further from the signal, not closer to the beach entrance?
Correct, yeah, maybe I don't know, a couple hundred feet south
You're
of
the
the signal.
expert, so.
Yeah. But to see the effect of a raised speed table, raised crossing at this specific location, I would rather see what the speed is where the light is green. To see if we raise it, if vehicles at this location, when the light is green, are at 40, 45, 50, then it can be effective. If even at a green, the speed is about 30, 35, then it's pretty safe, so we don't really need to raise it.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody?
Just out of curiosity, Abe, it's quite clear that where there is a signal, just on surface, where there is a signal, there's a heck of a lot more people crossing the street. So, I understand that we can't quite figure out what to do up on Harbaugh because there isn't a signal there. But it's quite clear that where there's a signal, there are numbers. And I think to Commissioner Wong's position earlier, you put a signal and you might be surprised how many people cross. And I'd like to comment real quickly to the fire marshal's statement. I understand there's a fine line between your mission to get to an accident, but there's also a part of what we do to avoid the accidents altogether. And I know there's a fine line in terms of your response time, but we're up here trying to figure out how to avoid those accidents so you don't have to show up. So I understand that there's a wrestle between getting there, that's your mission, but I think part of our mission is to make sure that the city is safe.
I agree, thank you. And that's part of what we evaluate. That's what I was talking about, the risk-benefit analysis. That's something that we all need to look at. And the biggest point to be taken out of this is, we're looking at routes that maybe there's only, for example, 101. That's our only route. So we have a mutual aid agreement with Solana Beach. That's the only route pretty much that we use from the station, right? So, and then the cumulative effect. That's another thing that we really look at. And as they start, as these cushions progulgate throughout the city, we start seeing that increase in response times for us. Understood that what you're trying to do is eliminate that accident altogether. But not all of our calls are accident-based. Yeah, in fact, the majority of them are medical-based, non-accidental type injury, right? So it's going to be someone at home having some type of medical emergency. Yeah, so I understand where you're coming from, and we try to evaluate that, and we do our best to look at the information we have and provide a reason why we wouldn't encourage those types of devices in certain areas. Thank you.
And thank you.
Any other comments? I have a couple of comments and maybe even some questions, but first of all, I thought one of the ideas of having those speed humps on streets designed the way they were was so that emergency vehicles can straddle them. Doesn't that still work?
Yes, but that is a very late advent of those. We just finished redesigning those speed cushions within the last year. And there's different types of devices. So you're talking about speed cushions specifically. What we're talking about tonight are speed tables, which aren't designed in that manner.
Right. So is it possible to put speed cushions rather than speed tables? And the emergency vehicles could straddle those?
Well, I think we'd have to talk to Abe about how that would work.
Okay, all right. So, Abe, I want to thank you and your staff and everything for providing all this information and everything. When I first brought forth this concept of adding raised crosswalks to these different locations, it was basically because I saw how effective they were on North Coast Highway 101 through Leucadia after that crash. And I noticed how quickly they were put in. And that's why I said, hey, if they're good for the goose, they should be good for the gander. Up in Leucadia on Highway 101, I think everybody would agree that the traffic speeds have gone down considerably and they've been very effective. So that is why I was thinking, I was trying to respond to people who live around La Costa, Sheridan, Andrew, and everything about how do we slow traffic down? And, you know, taking a look at an example of what was already effective in the city, that is why I started asking and saying, hey, we should have raised crosswalks in this section of road. I don't know what any future speed surveys will show, but between Chesterfield and Solana Beach, people are not driving 35 miles an hour. The vast majority of people. I mean, I could honestly, I would practically bet my life on this, that the majority of people are not driving 35 or below. And if you want to find out, get in your car, get in the #1 travel lane and go 35 miles an hour on a Saturday.
I did it yesterday.
And, you know, before you go a quarter mile, you've got cars past you, passing in the Sharrow lane, flipping you off and things like that. So there is a lot of traffic here, and it is very dangerous. And the city wants to increase mobility. Yes, we have the cycle track and everything, but there's still a lot of people who don't use that. Vehicle speeds is the #1 issue, in my mind, for our city to make it safer for everybody, including automobiles. 2 cars that crash at 20 miles an hour is going to cause a lot less damage and injury than at 40 miles an hour, 45, and we all know that. And so that was the whole point of trying to come up with, okay, let's duplicate what's already been effective up in Leucadia and do it here. I understand all the issues and everything, and you know, if we don't have, if this is not a workable solution, if it is not good, and the fire department, fire and emergency services says, no, we can't do that, then we're gonna have to pivot something in our city to slow traffic down. I don't know if it's automatic speed cameras, obviously not legal in California at this time, I don't think, but something has to be done to slow down motorized vehicles. And that was the main point of this. Like I said, if I were king of the forest or what have you, I would definitely move as rapidly as possible to do some kind of crossing at Harbaugh Trails at the border of Solana Beach and Encinitas. I just know, my fear is that, you know, this is a multi-year endeavor. And it's just, in my mind, it's unacceptable, and I don't understand why, I'm sorry, I'm frustrated, why the city can't do more to slow vehicles down. So, again, this is great data and everything, and the whole idea was to slow traffic down. And you do say that there is some traffic calming benefits to this, and which is great, but I don't know. I don't see. I guess it's not going to happen, and I'm kind of disappointed in that. But those are just my comments. So what is it that we need to do on this issue? Like, the thing was review and provide direction to staff. So what direction we reviewed? I don't know what direction we want to give to staff.
Well, I was going to say, from everybody's comment, it seems like the one at the trails, Harbaugh Trails, I mean, do we give direction to staff I mean, how do we proceed with getting that to happen? I also would like to know, how do we proceed to get the one at Sheridan to happen? But I don't know that we've even reached a consensus on that one. But how would we move forward? You know, and I wasn't feeling discouraged. I mean, I know at least Abe has drawn a plan, and, you know, it would be great. And they're in works with Solana Beach, I mean, in talks, so that seems positive to me. You sounded not distraught, but disappointed. But I mean, at least they're moving forward, right? You have plans with Solana Beach, so that sounds positive.
We are working together. I guess my answer, I can answer a little bit more completely. So to your question, Chair, this commission can ask me to present something or take something to the City Council to say, okay, this is traffic commission's, mobility commission's recommendation for council. At that point, obviously, I will have the input from the fire department. It can be, we don't like this, we don't approve this, and our city manager, our attorneys, when they review the council reports, they say, okay, with the negative input of the fire department, this doesn't go to council, so it gets to stop there. The second piece is the funding. Obviously, I will have to add this to the big list of unfunded projects of the city, which is around 100 projects. These have to get prioritized. Okay, does council want to spend 300,000 at this signal on Solana Beach or 300,000 added to finishing a streetscape? These playing with numbers with the amount of money that I think I mentioned a few times, the total budget that the traffic division has for everything, for pedestrian improvements, for traffic safety, for mobility, for traffic signals, everything all together is about $500,000, everything. The signal improvements, bike improvements, striping. So the different accounts that we have is short of 500,000 including. So we cannot just, and then we have like a long list of already promised projects that are funded and council waiting for them to happen. So we cannot add a project that's $50,000 in the middle of the year that is not included in the work plan that we presented to the city council at the beginning of the year. So back to your question, Chair, we can say we want this added to that unfunded projects list, and then we would receive fire's input, we take it to council, council can say, oh, we want to over, like the three that we did on Highway 101, fire department was not in favor of those. But city council at that point said, well, okay, we understand, but we are willing to take it on, we want to do this, although it's not the best for our 101, which is an important corridor for our emergency response. So this can happen, but again, there are a few hoops that we have to go through. It's the funding, and it's obviously the fire department's blessing. So both of them are required. But this doesn't prevent from commission from recommending something like this. Staff, we want you to move this forward, and we'll see how it goes.
Well, I'd like
And
to
I
move
think
that
it's,
we,
go ahead.
sorry, I'd like to move that we make such a recommendation to our traffic engineer, even though it will go on unfunded list. I think it also should be accompanied with a speed study, as we discussed.
What was that, Jim?
I was making a motion that we request that Mr. Bangan make a recommendation that we investigate putting a traffic signal at Harvard Trails, as he's already studied.
Okay.
I would like to add to that and work in conjunction with the city of Solana Beach.
And what?
And work in conjunction with the city of Solana Beach.
No,
No, you can't speak now.
No.
No.
We can't do it.
Send us a letter and we'll read it.
Anybody else?
Yes,
You made a motion, Jim, right?
Yes.
You made a motion. Is
Before
there-
we second.
Yeah, there is no second yet, but go ahead.
So question to Abe, if we come up with a motion, and then that motion, you then take this to the fire marshal for his review, then you come back to the commission with the fire marshal's response before we would then go to city council with our recommendation? What is the?
If you today vote for, let's say, one location or two or all of the locations, Abe, we want you to move this forward, finalize these designs, get a cost estimate, and go to council and see if council wants to fund these projects. Technically, I cannot take these to council before having fire department's blessing on them. So that would be my first stop. And then at that point, I will have to, because we have had these cases where we take something to the city council when the fire department vote on it is not super positive. But our attorneys will review, say, okay, well, you're okay to go or you're not okay to go. Our city manager will say, no, don't do this. We don't want to take something to the city council with a negative input from the fire department. If we pass that process, if fire department says, okay, maybe this location we can live with, that one is fine, but the other two, like all three of them, we cannot accept, but if only you do this one, maybe we can live with that one. If we get past that point, this project will add it to our unfunded projects list. It's a huge list with a huge, amount of money needed. If we get to a point where we can fund it, then obviously we'll take it to council and council can prioritize it for the fiscal year. Like this Wednesday is our budget session at council. There are a lot of projects there that are not funded. Council would reprioritize. Oh, bring that project in. We don't want this one. Take it off the list. So these kind of.
Yeah, that's what they do.
My request is mainly just so that it's on the list, it doesn't get forgotten. I don't have any dreams of it being funded this year or anytime soon.
Oh, I understand.
But I don't want to be lost.
And I'd like to add, if we can move 2 projects forward, not only the one in Solana Beach, but I'd also like to propose moving the Sheridan La Costa one forward.
Well, I don't understand. I propose that we have all of these evaluated by fire. I think the sooner that we have fire comment either way, then the better direction that we have to be able to go back to our citizens. So I would recommend that we take all of these through the process and have fire comments so that we have a better understanding. Is that a waste of time?
I'm worried it's a waste of staff time and money, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much more time it takes.
I would say before asking fire, we have to agree, like you as the commission have to agree which location is beneficial. Based on the numbers and based on the characteristics of those intersections, do we feel like all these 6 locations can benefit from the speed table? And then having our fire marshal here, I would say choose your fight. If we want to go to our fire marshal and say, okay, we want to implement traffic calming, we cannot do 10 cushions back to back. We have to choose it, I guess, more smartly for them to consider us, I guess.
That's a fair request, Mr. Bannigan. But I submit that the Harbor Trail is by far your stats, by far the most demanding one.
I agree.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate what you said, Abe, about Las Olas and then also Keys, that there's already a light there and that they actually are pretty safe from what you were saying, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Can I add something here? This is Hans with Fire Marshal. So we actually did look and evaluate these 6 locations, and the one that we agreed that we could possibly settle on was the one at Harbaugh because of the distance there in terms of it being a raised crosswalk or speed table. As far as it being some type of other device, whether it's a light or a stop sign or just a crosswalk that has a ped crossing lighting system on it, we have no objections to those. It's the vertical deflections that really impact us a lot. When we're talking about a 50,000-pound vehicle going from 35 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour, to nearly a stop to go over those because it's so heavy, we have to travel very slowly. And then to get back up to speed, those ones on 101 would impact us tremendously, probably in the longer range of the 15-second estimate for slowing us down. Yeah, and when we start putting multiples of those along that road, it's really going to impact us. So, and I spoke to operations about this, and that was our conclusion, was that was probably the one at this point that we could, and maybe I talked to Abe and see if there's some type of design change that we could come up with to accommodate fire response and allowing a different design in those other areas.
So I strongly support the motion to have him proceed with the Harbaugh area. And given that, yes, there's an issue at Sheridan, but a real priority is to get a walkway along La Costa Avenue and to get that road redesignated to be a 2-lane road, not a 4-lane road. So I don't think that we need to make, right now, given the fire department's position, that to be a big issue. I think we should just go for this Harbaugh.
So,
Can I comment?
yeah.
Of course.
Okay. the Costa is kind of dead in the water until we get the mobility element issue worked out. Because whether that's a 2-lane road or a 4-lane road with some eminent domain to widen it, affects the whole corridor. And that's we're kind of on hold until that decision gets made. However, it's clear that the harbor one needs to be done, and if we can propose it as a raised one and end up with just paint and a signal, that's better than the situation we've got now there.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Wang, and
Second,
Mary Lou seconds that.
an amendment that we work with Solana Beach.
Person who made the motion, is that okay to include that in your motion? To coordinate with Solana Beach?
Yes, although I don't think it's necessary. I think the most important part first is to get this item on our list as a factor of consideration. How we fund it, I think, is a separate question.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay. Any other comments? Patricia?
Can we clarify, is it Harbor that we're talking about, or all three of them?
Talking about the harbor.
Okay.
The motion is to request Mr. Bannigan to send a recommendation to council to investigate putting in a crosswalk and traffic signal at Harbor Trails.
As soon as possible.
As soon as possible, okay.
Any other comments? I have a couple. I totally support that motion. I think that is obviously the most important. I don't think it really addresses the issues of speed enforcement and speed reduction on this stretch of road. I still think that something needs to be done, and I just have to think that people in the city and the city staff are smart enough and experienced enough to come up with a solution rather than just saying, well, there's nothing we can do about it. I do agree that the crossings that are signalized, they're good. I don't have a problem with that. Again, the main reason why I suggested the raised crosswalks is I saw how effective they were up in Leucadia and how quickly they were put in. But things change, and I understand that. So like I said, I would support Commissioner Wang's motion. Any other comments?
Call the question.
All right, call the question. Should we vote technically, or?
Don't we need a second? Don't we need a second? She called. By calling the comment.
Once you call the question, you have to vote on it.
Yeah, so we have to vote on it. So the motion, Amanda, do you understand the motion? Yes. Okay, great. And Abe, you understand that too? We all are in understanding? Okay. Oh. Where's?
You have to.
Technically. I have to sign in. Thank you, Bob.
All right.
Okay, motion passed. Thank you.
All right.
All right, next item on the agenda.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, our traffic log, I'll go quick to see if we can wrap up before 2 hours. Let's see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hans. Looking at the list,
Thank you for coming in and sharing with us that information. Thank you.
nothing new on San Alejo, the new crosswalks, Verde still TBD, not funded. Mobility element update, we did talk about.
I'm sorry, can I ask you to just make that a little bigger where the percentage is on your screen? I can barely see that. Thank you very much.
Nothing. Mobility element is going forward. Updates on cycle track are provided. Nothing new on our e-bike policy. Crosswalk at La Costa on Highway 101, the diagonal crossing there that was suggested to be evaluated by commission. We will do it as soon as the segment C, I guess, is completed of the streetscape. The crosswalk evaluation at several intersections was today's item. LRSP was presented to commission last month, going to council later this month. Rancho Santa Fe updates. We do have some funding for the 3 crossings there, the 3 intersections, that the Lone Jack, El Camino del Norte, and I want to say Morning Sun area, that the 3 intersections will have improved crosswalks with RFPs and pavement markings. For the Morning Sun, that is not stop control. The other 2 only continental crossing and improved ADA facilities, ped ramps. We are also have included the funding required for striping Rancho Santa Fe with narrower lanes and a walkway on the west side of Rancho Santa Fe to our next fiscal year, which will be discussed this Wednesday at council. Not much new on Encinitas Boulevard improvements on Bloor. I haven't had any conversations with the St. John Church's principal to see if I can get anywhere with regards to potential restriping of the roadway or a new traffic signal there. Manchester Avenue and San Alejo crosswalk is not final, but I think I did see a $100,000 number. I'm not sure if it's actually there on the next fiscal year's budget, but if it finds its way into actual funded, we will have that much to improve that intersection and the connection to the stairs that goes toward the nature center. Again, TBD, we'll know if that 100,000 gets finalized. Hygeia roundabout updates. I do know that the design is being finalized. The project doesn't have enough to construct, obviously. So at some point, it will, I guess, just be shelved and shovel ready for potential funding for construction. Yellow Circle, we do have to go back to council and report back on how the traffic circle operates. We're planning on collecting some similar video data to see. We have received some comments that some people ignore the circle and just go straight. We want to see what kind of percentage we're looking at. Is it 1%? Is it 20%? And the volume of traffic that's using it and the effect on the speed. So that's something that we have to prepare a report. Obviously, I'll bring it to the Traffic Commission before going to council. And the Clark Avenue letter to Planning Commission, which I thought we were discussing today. But yeah, we have April date, but hopefully the Planning Commission meeting date is after our next meeting in May, which is 9th. I think it would be after that. I think Planning Commission is usually Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. So 2nd and 4th, yeah, it's probably 12th. We'll see. Thank you. I'm open to questions if there is any.
Real quick, Abe, on the Rancho Santa Fe update, you mentioned the Lone Jack, El Camino del Norte, and Morning Sun crosswalks, sidewalks, no, crosswalks.
Crosswalks.
Not crosswalks, sidewalks, whatever. Crosswalks, thank you. What's the timing? You said it's in, is it on the budget, or is it 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now? So I can go back to the town council.
So, a little complicated. The crosswalks are funded for this fiscal year. We do have the money. It is in a account that makes it a little bit harder to use. So it's like a finance thing. Our ADA money, because the good chunk, because that thing, those 3 intersections, I think the cost estimate is around $50,000 to improve, but a good 30,000, 40,000 off that 50,000 is ADA ramps. all those 12 corners, so 10 corners. 2 of them are full 4-legged intersections, all the 8 corners, and the Morning Sun, which is only 2 sides. So the 10 corners, we sometimes get lucky. Some of those are new ADA compliant. I think all of the 10 locations are bad. Maybe 9 locations are, maybe there's 1 at Morning Sun that is okay. The other 9, they all have to be improved to new ADA standards. That's about like $3,000 each. So that's like $30,000 by itself. Our ADA account is depleted this year. So we have to tap into accounts that are more flexible for our traffic projects. And the striping project, the lane narrowing and the walkway formation, that was not funded. That's for next year. So we were thinking on, instead of spending our, I guess, good account that's more flexible for ADA, wait for the ADA money to kick in July and do both of them together after July. The design is ready. The project is ready to be constructed. It's just a matter of which account to use and how to use it. We can build the crosswalks. I'd rather not, to be honest. I'd rather use our precious, we have an account called General Mobility that is, use it for safety mobility enhancements for different areas of town. I'd rather not build ADA ramps with it.
All right, so you're looking probably July.
August,
July,
September, yeah.
summer. And then would you be holding off on the striping timeline also until that?
At that point, we'll do it. I mean, striping is not funded. Striping has to happen at that point. There's no way we can do this striping before July.
What's on the walkway, what street to what street on the walkway?
I think it's the whole stretch from Encinitas all the way to La Posta. So the whole stretch, narrowing down the lanes. But then again, I don't want to say on the record similar to Vulcan. There will be some pinch points that we won't have enough, but there will be a long stretch, like 80-90% of the corridor, that the west side will have about like 7 feet of the space, which currently doesn't have it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the follow-up log? Seeing none, we can, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was too quick.
No problem.
Commissioner Trout.
Let's see, so Abe, for the Clark Avenue discussion, that would be our next meeting, could we have some type of site plan that kind of shows the area? I kind of recall you showing something in the past, but I was just wondering if that would be possible.
Correct. This line here was added, as you recall, because we wanted to be able to agendize it, and when the letter comes to commission can vote on it to be sent to the planning commission. So you want that map for discussion purposes, like when we want to talk about that letter for me to open it up? I guess I'm not clear on what we want to do with it.
It would help us write the letter by being able to reference the site plan.
Oh, so not for the, like you want me to send it to you separately, like, out of?
Yes, that's.
Oh, okay, yeah, just contact me, and then whatever information you need, I'll provide it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to Commissioner Corner. And like I said at the beginning of the meeting, I don't want anyone to feel restricted in making any comments.
Well, I wanted to follow up with the 2 women that spoke earlier about Vulcan. And I think, could you pull up a Google map of that area? Because they didn't show pictures, but they actually explained what they were hoping to accomplish, to create a safe walkway by turning the parking parallel that is currently in the DG, and then creating a safe walkway behind the parked cars. So the cars are currently nose in. As you can see, this is amazing. So you can see their nose in right there. And if those cars were just parked parallel, you could then walk. You'd then have a safe walkway with the cars on the outside and a pedestrian walkway on the inside. Although I think this might be, is this before it was improved, or are there backstops there? I can't quite tell.
Yeah, I don't see wheel stops here.
I don't either. So currently, this has all been graded. It is DG, and there are wheel stops. So, yeah, this is before. So this is what we have in Leucadia to walk to get, to both of our beach access. We do not have the rail trail, we don't have any sidewalks. So, and as the two Leucadians showed, the new area that Abe striped is very narrow, and it pinches out. So I guess I am hoping that maybe we can ask to put on the follow-up log to just see if this would be possible, Abe, to turn those, to make a design to turn those wheel stops sideways and put a DG path behind it. I mean, you wouldn't have to do, what I'm trying to say, pardon me, is just turn them sideways and then you just create a walkway there. There's nothing more to do other than to just turn the parking sideways, right? And then it opens up that space.
And you would like to add that to the follow-up log?
I guess, yes.
To that discussion?
Yes, to that
And
discussion, to see
there-
if that's possible.
We need 2 other commissioners to also request that study be looked at by the staff.
I'd
Or the
second that.
staff to look at that.
I'd second that.
possibility.
I second that.
I'll
As a
second it
list.
also.
I'll fourth it.
Thanks,
So
everybody.
we'll put on the follow-up log, analyzing, changing the parking on the west side of Vulcan, north of Leucadia Boulevard, to La Costa, change it from head-in parking to parallel parking, and thus creating space to put in a walking path between the soon-to-be erected fence along the railroad and the parked cars.
I think that
Perfect.
saying that we're going to make it all parallel parking will be a major disaster for those who live between Leucadia Boulevard and Glaucus, because there's a huge number of apartments there, and there are hundreds of cars parked vertically in there. But I think there's plenty of room to still make a walking path with the coming in parking, so I don't think it needs to include changing the parking. What it needs to have is the wheel stops.
No, it already has wheel stops, and so
But they have to be moved.
they need to be moved. Yeah, they need to be moved, and there is no room. If we don't change the parking, there won't be any room. So there is currently, there are cars parked there, but it's not always full. I walk and run that quite often, and there's plenty of space. And yes, maybe some cars will have to park a little further from their house, but just remember, that was all illegal parking just a year ago. So, and it's still, right? So let's again, can we please try to prioritize walking mobility in the neighborhood? Because, that is really important for the neighbors, especially everybody that lives in those apartments. There is going to be no way to access the beach or the crossings if we can't get there, and walking, as you could see in the street with your dog and your baby, is really dangerous. So if people have to walk a few more feet to their parked car, I feel okay with that.
I'd like to second the vice chair's recommendation, because we have devoted very many of our resources to cars, and more cars, and just not very much to any other form of mobility. So this would be a form of retribution, remuneration. It's more like environmental justice, that we're paying some attention to pedestrians. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. As I recall, the public space being used for parking is public space. It's not private space. If the property owner needs more parking spots, he should have built them. And so devoting all this public land that's needed for other mobility purposes other than driving and burning fossil fuel is not the best way to do things.
I just have a comment. If Commissioner Schultz said that we could accommodate the walkway and the parking head-in, maybe we should have it measured so we actually know what the dimensions are in that area.
need that information, and we need to be aware that that is the only affordable housing that's in Leucadia or probably Encinitas. So we're impacting a few people, quite a few people who don't have the same amount of money that a lot of people in our town have. And they tend to pay the price. The people who are poorest are often paying the price for those of us who have a lot of money.
Well, I agree, because if you look at this stretch of Leucadia, it is of all of our city, it has the least mobility in it. So I feel like doing this is actually providing them mobility. It is allowing them to safely get to Pawlecki without having to get in their car. There are a lot of kids that live in those apartments right there, and their parents, the only safe way they can get them is to get in a car and drive them. And my guess is, as you pointed out, maybe some of the people are lower income and only have one car. This path would then be providing them a safe passage. And I will tell you, I walked this trail multiple times just last week and looked at it and did measure it, and there is plenty of space if they go parallel to make the walkway. In a lot of places, it will be pinched out if you keep them nosed in. Again, Vulcan is the most densely populated, this section of Northwest Leucadia, the most densely populated of all of our town, and it has the least mobility. We have sharrows, we have not a single sidewalk, and we have got to provide access not only to both of the La Costa and to Leucadia Boulevard, right? But it's the only way to move. So sorry to go on and on about this, but there are no sidewalks anywhere in our neighborhood. You can't go one street up and find a sidewalk. In fact, you go one street up and you're on Hermes, and then you go one street up and you're on Hygeia, which is even narrower than Vulcan. We have no mobility in Northwest Leucadia, and the neighbors have been asking for this along there. In fact, they call it the low-budget rail trail is what they really want. So there's a lot of will for this from all the neighbors.
And I understand that, and I walk that daily. Yeah. Okay, so I know it firsthand. But I think we need to be aware of that community, because those are the kids who came to my class at Pawlecki when I taught there, and there are 3 families living in many of those apartments. 3 families, not 3 kids.
Yes, and it was amazing that the city actually took that over, got it graded, and provided all that additional parking. It was illegal, so it is not taking away the parking, it's just changing the parking, right? It's still providing parking that wasn't there just even a year and a half ago. So we aren't taking that resource away, we're still providing that, and we are providing another way for them to move to your old classroom as well, right?
Chair, if I may, to simplify this a little bit, I do know that this topic, the walkway on the west side, is on our council's radar. 90% plus chance will be discussed this Wednesday. These conversations will come up. I'm not sure how, but they will be discussed. I'd suggest that we can add it to log if you like, but we can certainly revisit this next month after hearing what council decides on Wednesday. I think it would be easier that way to know what because this is, if it's going to go forward, it's a couple $100,000 project.
Right.
So to discuss it and me evaluate it, because it takes a lot of effort evaluating this, measuring and designing, and if it's not going to have the couple $100,000 it needs, then it would be a moot point. So I guess let's wait for Wednesday and then discuss it next month.
Right, but we'll go ahead and add it to the follow-up.
Yeah,
log
we sure
now,
can, yeah.
and there'll be more discussion next month. And who knows, there may be a hybrid of head-in and parallel parking, depending where.
A couple $100,000 right there tells us what it's going to happen.
But, okay, so anybody else, Commissioner Corner? I do. Sorry. See, I said sorry. I apologize. Abe, at one of our future meetings, would it be possible to have Jack Lobier come and talk to us about his new position? He is the new senior planner, mobility coordinator. in the Development Services Department. And it might be good to have him come and share what he thinks his role is and how he can help us help the residents, if that's possible. Could you reach out to him and ask him, invite him to our next meeting perhaps?
Absolutely.
If his calendar allows it?
Absolutely, yeah, but it would have to be coming from their director, because as you know, we are separate departments now, so I would have to request our director to contact
Right.
their
Yeah,
director.
we should get rid of these separate departments. But anyway, thank you. I have a question. Abe, you and your staff spent a lot of time developing the roadway reclassification plan. We talked about it on the commission, and out of all the different roads that you had identified as perhaps being able to be reclassified so that we could put in lower speed limits, there were 3 sections, and I think it was mostly Vulcan from La Costa down to Chesterfield, I think.
It was Vulcan and San Alejo, Chesterfield to La Costa.
Yeah, and just remind everybody, the whole idea of this is to be able to reclassify these, or, yeah, take away the classification that is on this road that goes to the state, so that we, the city, could lower the speed limits without having to deal with the 85% rule. Did I describe that correctly? And you guys spent a lot of time on it, and I was just wondering, when is that going to go to council?
The report was
ago.
written for a few months. This whole AB 43 situation kind of slowed things down, but after discussing with our attorneys and evaluating AB 43 ourselves, it seems like the path to lower speed limits using AB 43 is not there yet.
Right.
So we are pursuing that. The report is there tentatively for April 27th. It is the same night that LRSP is going to council. Again, tentative, it's until it's posted, but yeah, the report is being reviewed by higher ups as we speak.
Great, that's good news, that's good news. And I was wondering, I noticed with the new striping on Vulcan and everything, there are thermoplastic speed limit legends on the road at 35 miles an hour. So if the council and everything decides to go and lower the speed limit to 25, those will have to be torn out?
There's no way of hiding, I guess. No, yeah, that was a mistake.
Ah, okay. Yeah, because it's from Leucadia Boulevard south, it's 30 miles an hour on San Alejo.
That, and in general, when we have sharrows, we don't like to put thermo.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, we did the sharrows in regular paint. For some reason, the speed limits ended up being thermo, but.
Well, yeah.
But we were slurring there. I think it's on our repave list next year. So Vulcan will be repaved next year.
Excellent. Okay. And hopefully it'll be resolved about the parking and the walkway and everything when they repave Vulcan. We can
Well,
only
it's
hope.
just the pavement width. We're not going to touch the
Right.
edge of the road. That's what I heard. I mean, that's not our division, the repaving. I think Ian mentioned that Vulcan is on the list of roads that will be repaved next fiscal year. So with the quality of pavement on Vulcan, I'm not sure if it can be slurried or has to be like grinded and overlaid.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay. Another question I had, we had, our commission approved or recommended and wanted to send to council our recommendation for permit parking in an area of town like Via Tavira, Via Saracen, Via Palacio, Via Vilena. And like we had approved that goes to the council. Can you tell us when that's going to happen?
That topic is being reviewed by our new city attorney. The topic of, because of the fact that, if you recall, there were some conversations about how the Muni Code language is and how a resident parking is considered a resident parking if they are from an adjacent apartment complex. Parking on this road, are they considered resident or not? And the way the Muni Code says, it has to be impacted by non-resident parking. So they are reviewing this to see if we can take it to the council.
So it's conceivable that is it conceivable that the attorneys say they can't do that? Would that mean that we have to remove the permitted parking in the other places of the city?
I mean, those already have their council votes. So this one is, the city attorney is evaluating whether we are allowed to recommend to something, take something to council that does not meet the city code.
Okay. And that's it. Thank you.
I have one. It's pretty exciting to see the Manchester-San Alejo crosswalk move so swiftly through the council process. Can you share with us the secret sauce from last month, having some great drawings, to all of a sudden making the city council agenda and possibly be funded? So is there something unique or special about that process that maybe we can incorporate for future recommendations?
To be honest, there's no secret sauce. It's a lot of times when we talk about something here, it doesn't necessarily mean it was generated like there. Like this intersection has been on the radar for a long, like I met with the gentleman who was here at that meeting like 2 years ago on this, and at that point he had contacted the council. So this has been long in the process. And the second thing, I hate to say this, but it's the price tag. If something can be done with $50,000, with $70,000, with $100,000, it has a way higher chance of, quickly getting, because it's, you get, low-hanging fruit type, like more bang for the buck. Like if we were talking about the Vulcan walkway, that we know at least going to be like I checked the numbers because we were doing DG path from Vulcan all the way to the bridge, the La Costa project. I checked the square footage for DG path and did like a very, very quick math. If let's say everything is feasible and we have room, just for a 5-6 footer path over there on the west side of Vulcan, that's DG, we would need about $400,000. Setting aside the whole design and evaluation. Again, it's not impossible, but when the dollar amount gets big, then, it has to compete with like 99 other projects on our unfunded list. So there are a lot. And then again, we only know about like wanted traffic projects. There are a lot of other wanted drainage projects, park projects. There's just this huge list that we don't even see. Like, I don't even know them.
And then the last one, I'm sorry. Commissioner Johnson talked about, on the woman who came in and talked on Vulcan, where she was walking on the east side of Vulcan. Clearly there was a lot of ice plant and things like that. I understand it would be hard to reclaim it, but would it be hard, with the city survey to go out and just paint, like chalk paint, like, okay, Mr. Jones or Mrs. Smith, your ice plant is encroaching upon the city's right-of-way by 4 feet, and if you were to cut back your ice plant, then people could walk. A lot of people, we found clearly on Clark Avenue discussion, a lot of people don't even know where their property line ends and where the city right-of-way begins. So before, we spend a bunch of money, how difficult is it for someone to go out and basically, spray some chalk to let the neighbors, to let the property owners know that, hey, if you would cut your ice plant back, somebody could go for a walk. That's not our cost, it's their cost.
Not that hard, but it's easier than that. The right-of-way is like so big on the east that like this is close, like north of Andrew, close to the Vulcan curve. Like this is 1967 Vulcan. That's where the project is built. This is a new development. This is the edge of the sidewalk. This is the edge of right-of-way. See how far it is from the edge of Vulcan. This is the striped edge of Vulcan. This is the edge of right-of-way. So it's about, I think it's about like 20 feet or something, if not more. It's 24 feet. So it's not even a matter of like 3-4 feet. It's like we're so far. We have so much room on the east side of the road. I was thinking, I visited the project a few times these past 7-10 days. We can ask our pub works to help us maybe in some of areas like this, just to go out and clean it up, give us an extra 2-3 feet. But there are areas that it's not feasible. There are bunch of stuff that they cannot just easily remove. But at least in areas that they can, we can ask our public works team to kindly help us open it up more. But no, it's not a matter of right. They know, the residents know, it's just.
Well, I'm just commenting on, you know, we're talking about doing a lot of work on the west side of the street and reallocating parking and things like that. But if the ability to solve a temporary problem is just cut back the ice plant so the trash cans can fit and someone can walk their dog, that's just.
There's so much encroachment. It's like driveways and concrete, and it's not, I wish it was just as easy as taking a backhoe and doing it, but I mean, literally, there are permanent structures in the right-of-way. So I think until the entire section was reallocated, this seems to always be the problem with Leucadia, that every single project is not simple, you know? So it's almost like, you know, we've got trees and you get it in some section and then on another. But I think this goes back to, Abe, I was just gonna say, I hope we wouldn't have to say that we needed all new DG on the left side. It's already DG'd. I mean, it doesn't look like that anymore. You guys already graded it and spent the money and put the DG down, you know, on that side, right?
It's not DG, it's dirt.
Oh, it's, okay.
It's compacted, but no,
Okay, well,
the compacted is not ADA. I mean, it's all, if you create a project and you're funding it, then it has to be ADA compliant. All those other stuff comes in.
Well, I guess, and then it just comes back to the question of, you know, when you look at when you compare, as Commissioner asked, how did we go from they just came in here and now there's a sidewalk and $100,000 sitting for that.
To
stretch in
clarify on
Cardiff.
record, it's not there until it's there.
Right,
I
right,
just said,
right.
it's not, it's one of those things that council is playing with
Yeah,
numbers. It's not, I think I
right.
saw it, so.
Again, the stretch here is, we have nothing in this stretch, you know, so I realize it might be a little more, but it's almost 1,000 times the distance of that, little stretch. So thank you very much for looking into it. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for looking into this.
At this point, we just need that illegal fence taken down off of that, and I might choose to, if it disappears one day, I didn't have anything to do with it.
A fence party.
That's what they had to put it up.
Are there any other comments or questions?
Yeah, just one comment or question, I guess. Can we just go through the process that we're going to go through next month for the Clark Avenue project? So if I understand correctly, the subcommittee will get together and finalize the letter, and then we'll bring it back, and we'll discuss it and edit it.
Perhaps.
And then we'll
And
move
we'll
forward.
agree to send it up.
Could you have it on the agenda so we can see it prior to the meeting and so the public can see it also?
And that means we need to have it done by Friday before the meeting? Okay.
Before our meeting.
Yes.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Get it on the agenda.
Not this Friday.
No, but Friday before the meeting. Okay.
Because I have a feeling people will want to comment on the letter.
All right.
It's very helpful if they see it ahead of time.
Well, if there are no other comments or anything, I'll adjourn the meeting. So adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Abe. Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate your time.